Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ken Kaufman, the producer of the New Living Expo. I am so proud to bring you my brother-in-law, who has been just an instrument of exposing information that the government doesn't want us to know about. And, 20 years of research, you just can't, you got to listen to this guy because it's amazing information. And yeah, it's going to be hard for a lot of people to hear, but at the same time, they've got to hear this because it's like the truth has to come out at some point. So I'm really, really, really happy that he was able to join us this afternoon to give us his insights and some wisdom that he's learned over this 20-year period and what's currently happening with our situation with our governments and how they're basically manipulating us with false flags. And we mentioned that yesterday or earlier. Yeah, it was yesterday morning, I think. Yeah, no, yeah, Sunday afternoon, where we had him on just for a little bit, just to kind of give a little preview of what we're going to be doing. But a lot of this information is out there, but then it gets suppressed by Facebook and Google and other people. They just don't want to have it exposed.
All the important stuff is disappearing, Ken. All the important stuff that I got when people come to you and they would say, "What are your sources?" They're no longer there because at one point Google was asked by the government to take out 4,000 different different Google pages, and it's just disappearing. And now it's come to the point where you don't have the right to discuss, especially on Facebook. Oh, and by the way, I lost my Facebook page too because of all that. You don't have the right to discuss things like the election, things like vaccines, things like
They'll
all
just
the important stuff that everybody should be knowing. I didn't mean to
they
interrupt
delete
you.
it, and I've heard people dying because they were starting to expose things. It's in the news, but it's not mainstream news. We won't hear about it. We have to hear like underground news. So what Luca is sort of an underground journalist. We look at him that way, and we need that because our society is too dependent upon Fox and other radio TV shows, and we need to be more with this kind of modality of listening and hearing what he has to say. So, Luca, unmute yourself so we can hear you, and I'll let you take it away. Have some fun.
I still don't understand why nobody's talking about this. I mean, nobody. I mean, I've never heard anybody speak of the stuff that I'm speaking of, except on the sources that I got it from, like one radio interview, things like that. But I mean, this is stuff that has to come out, and people have died or disappeared for less. So, Ken, it's a real honor to be on the show with New Living Expo. It really is.
Thank you. So, I'm going to stop my video and we'll hear from Luca. Thank you again.
Well, good day to all. My name is Luca Mino, Majno. I'm coming to you today, perhaps to some a bit unshaven, uh, but I'm back from the hospital after a major surgery, and I'm honorably asked uh, by Ken, my brother-in-law, to join this New Living Expo forum to shed light on what resonates with me personally in life and in the agenda that we see unfolding. This is my spin on things. And as we all have our own, my hope is to generate interest on the research I've done for over the past 20 years or so, following the likes of David Icke, Larkin Rose, and many others for all this time that I've been working at it. Since, as the saying goes, you can't talk butterfly language with caterpillar people because they're not ready for it. I pray that this forum touches the hearts of many, and those who are not ready to hear such truths will simply just move on. One thing to begin with, one thing people really need to understand is that companies like Google, Facebook, Twitter, and others are deleting all the truths, all links, all references, all sources. And you won't be able to find what I found a long time ago when I started, um, so many documents. And so it's thanks to people like us who have saved these documents and quotes and pictures and links, etc., that we're able to share these unedited truths. And if you take a look at my YouTube page, you'll see that most of the most important videos were deleted. Video deleted, video deleted, video deleted. I can't count how many there are. So uh, what really started things off for me in the beginning were quotes from highly regarded people too. People like Kissinger saying that, for example, quote, military men are dumb, stupid animals to be used in foreign policy. Another one said that military men are used as dumb, stupid animals to be used as cannon fodder for foreign policy. Or let's go to Rockefeller. I have a couple of them for really disturbing ones, to say the least. Quote, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers, unquote. And he said this for a very good reason, because the more people investigate what these people in charge are doing, the more they'll see the lies, the deceit, and the inner workings of foreign policy behind the curtain, just like in The Wizard of Oz. I can only hope that people will do their own research and jot down the key words in this show, since you're watching it. I can't even touch on Rockefeller medicine or education on this show because there's so much information to share. Perhaps on another presentation, we can blow the whistle on how they got away with making homeopathy illegal, which is natural healing and natural medicine, because they want to keep it only for them, because they want to get rid of us. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But Rockefeller et al. Instituted allopathy, the poisoning of the people through chemicals, petrochemicals, by bribing hospitals, book burnings of invaluable knowledge of natural medicines. I urge people to please go see the 9-minute video on YouTube called The FDA, Rockefeller, and Cancer. Then they can clearly see why Monsanto and others were put in place. It's very easy to see the future when you know what the past has brought us, how the past has brought us here. Another quote from Rockefeller thanks the New York Times, the Washington Post, and others for keeping their Bilderberg meetings secret so that they can carry out their plans with the New World Order. This is all set up. This is all engineered. And yet another one, which is probably one of the most poignant for me, he states, this is the old Rockefeller that looks like death. I'm not sure what his first name was. He says, when they rise up against us, we will crush them like insects because they are less than that. They will be helpless to do anything about it, unquote. And another one, under the guise of a pandemic, we will create a prison state. So in 2010, a Rockefeller academic study scripted a plan to introduce martial law as a permanent method to control the citizenry. Rothschild, Rockefeller, the Bilderberg Group, these are all secret societies that, in fact, JFK warned us about with his well-known quote from April 27, 1961, in which he says, quote, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths and secret proceedings, unquote. That's one of the things that got him killed. And he was also too rich to be bought off by the Rothschild. He wanted to bring home the troops from Vietnam, which was another false flag operation. He refused to invade Cuba, which was another false flag operation in the making, by those working behind his back, like Lemnitzer and Dulles, who got fired for it. And also, he promised to splinter the CIA into 1,000,000 pieces, something that the elite would not stand for. Just like Facebook, I believe that there's a reason why they delete and delete and delete what you write and what you post as verifiable truth. Because if it wasn't true, they would laugh about it and they'd leave it up there. But because it is true, they cannot and will not leave the post up. And my Facebook page was deleted for exactly that reason. And you can see by the few quotes that I just spoke of, they will not allow us to investigate the truths, things like the Holocaust or the false flags, namely the attack on the USS Liberty by Israel and their warplanes, which did not sink it after killing and maiming so many aboard. And there's LBJ in his office screaming, "I want that goddamn ship on the bottom of the ocean." Very quickly, a false flag is basically, let's say, our government creating and engineering an event and blaming it on others. Like 9/11, they blamed Muslims so they could go in and take out 7 countries in 5 years, which we'll get into in a minute. But other ones like Sandy Hook, the Boston bombing, the Oklahoma City bombing, 9/11, and all wars and conflicts since Pearl Harbor and Vietnam, etc. It's all an example of the false flags that they engineer themselves. And I encourage you to watch a 2-minute video that I made called "Memorial Lies," in which I go through several of them, but not all of the false flags. And what we have to understand what false flags mean. And I know that most people following this show know what they are already, but people are so busy with their own lives and their own families, they don't have time to do all this research. But once you start to see the fakery and you know the lies, once you start to see their interpretation to us about the truth, their truth, which is far from it, you start to see the agenda behind everything very clearly. Even Julian Assange says that almost all terror plots are created by the FBI as a part of their business model. So, with that, please let me elaborate a bit on the Oklahoma City bombing for a few minutes. The Oklahoma City bombing was cutely called a test run for 9/11. Most people know that a fertilizer bomb cannot take out the front face of a building, the federal building, no less. Timothy McVeigh was an asset for the CIA, and they set up the truck bomb as a diversion. You can also still find videos on YouTube in which then FBI Chief Ted Gunderson, killed by arsenic poisoning, was telling the truth about this even then, explaining how they're experimenting at that time with gaseous fuel devices as bombs, and that government was, beyond a shadow of a doubt, responsible for this attack. I even came very, very close to interviewing the man himself who was approached by the CIA/FBI, then an asset for them, to do the job. We'll call him CS. And he was being interviewed by Ola Damagard last year, and he gave his email during the show, and from there we connected, and I set up my own interview for my own program, Learn to Unlearn, to interview him. And just before that, after his wife's car got sabotaged and there were 4 attempts on his life, he had to go underground. But with me on the phone, scrambling and writing down what he was saying as fast as I could, he explained that they had offered him $500,000 now and $500,000 later after the job is done. And he said, "Great, what country are we going to this time?" "No, this is the federal building in OKC," they replied. And he refused on moral grounds, which made him now a liability. Same thing as Terrence Yakey. You'll remember the first responder, the black police officer who got on the scene very, very soon after the explosion, who was watching guys in suits carrying out boxes and boxes out of the building, smoldering and still steaming and on fire in certain places. He also found unexploded bombs with US Army stamps on them taken out of the building, and some were even in the daycare part of the building. He had said that this is what they do. They target children in order to maximize human reaction, horror, and trauma. We all remember that picture of the fireman holding the baby, which got a Pulitzer Prize. Everything is a lie. And the truth is, two of the many reasons why they wanted to blow up the building deliberately were one, to disappear the Bill and Hillary cocaine trafficking evidence and also child trafficking, etc., and also to disappear the over 200,000 veteran files from the first Gulf War, where veterans got sick and many died because the US Army was using uranium-238 on their own munitions and on the enemy, not coated, not tipped, but pure uranium-238, and then got their own troops to clean up the mess, sickening them within 24 hours. Please watch the video that Doug Roke made, Rokke, which is probably still on YouTube, for information on that. No files, no payments, right? Very simple. So just to have it in your face, okay, about how they lie and they cheat and they steal. Let's look for a moment at what Mike Pompeo, CIA director, said when he was speaking publicly, admitting what they're up to. He says, "Oh, we lied, we cheated, we stole," and they laugh. And another good example is when Hillary Clinton was laughing about the killing of Gaddafi, destroying his country like many others. Quote, "We came, we saw, he died, ha 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 ha," on national television. And men like him and others, men and women like him and others who care, uh, about their people, who had built up an incredible wealth in their own countries, who were becoming independent and refusing Rothschild private banks, were just incinerated, genocided, and bulldozed. Assad is another one. And we're taught that these people were dictators, and we go in there and settle it with democracy. We bring in democracy, and all of the people in the United States gullibly swallow the lies from the media because, wow, America's a proud country and we're the best in the world, etc. I can never forget the words of General Wesley Clark, retired, who was flabbergasted by the news himself 6 weeks after 9/11, and his words say it all. Listen carefully. And this is a quote. "So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing Afghanistan. I said, 'Are we still going to war with Iraq?' And he said, 'Oh no, it's worse than that.' He reached over on his desk, picked up a piece of paper, and he said, 'I just got this from downstairs,' meaning the Secretary of Defense's office, today. And it said, 'This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq, and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and starting off and finishing off with Iran," unquote. That was what 9/11 was all about. One of the biggest false flags until now, until the coronavirus. Uh, this is what it was. This is what the 9/11 coup was. A Rothschild ordered hit on the Twin Towers, executed by the fake and illegal state of Israel that they created themselves in 1917 via the Balfour Declaration, if you want to look that up, with the complicity of the US, Britain, and France, and other Zionist-controlled countries. And there's Zionist himself, Rudy Giuliani, who was mayor of the city of New York at that time, who quickly scurried to get rid of all the evidence in less than 6 weeks, sending all the steel to China, etc. Write the word 9/11 down, and then put it in the mirror, and it spells lie, just for the hell of it. So is he not guilty? Is Rudy Giuliani not guilty of crimes against humanity, of crime against his own people? So why do we see him today as Trump's lawyer, or boldly speaking out as if he wasn't guilty of anything? This is the joke to them. They think it's funny. They think it's cool. It's a script. Every time I see his face on Twitter now, speaking of something like, accusing today's New York mayor of not doing his job properly, I always comment directly underneath asking, does anyone have a lapse of memory? Did anyone forget about 9/11? See, all these truths are disappearing. So that, for example, teens today, straight out of high school, will never know the real truth about these extraordinary events, crimes against humanity by the US, on their own people. To me, the real crime is who's responsible for building the Ground Zero Memorial for those lost in the 9/11 attack. Wait till you hear this one. The very same people who did the attack. That's right. Designed by the son of Israeli terrorist Moshe Arad, Michael Arad designs the memorial in order to keep the lie alive. 19 hijackers with box cutters? No. 9/11 was carefully engineered in Israel. And in 1978, a movie came out called The Medusa Touch with Richard Burton, in which a 747 slams into the Pan Am building in New York. Coincidence? I think not. The producer of the movie was none other than Arnon Milchan, another Israeli, top level military too. And we can still find him as a producer of many movies today in Hollywood, continuing the deceit and continuing the lies of today's agenda. For more information on 9/11, I really urge people to go see Christopher Bolin, BOLLYN.com, www.BOLLYN.com, because he lived in Israel. He knows the whole story. He knows who the Israelis are. He knows so much. And in particular, it's called the Savior's Day presentation. You can still find it on YouTube. I don't know why they didn't take it down. But one more thing about 9/11 that I find very important. When you look at both 9/11 and the coronavirus fraud side by side, you can see the unfolding agenda very, very clearly. Everything, I really believe, started with Rothschild et al. From the Revolutionary War on, we see an agenda to control their colonies, North and South. For example, with the Civil War engineered, like all other conflicts and wars since then. When I researched it, I saw clearly how it was a Rothschild operation, deliberately setting things up between a fight and between the North and the South. And it's very important that people maybe put this on pause because the pictures are going to go by pretty quickly. Just to have a look and to see that everything fits. Most of these important and vital links and truths are disappearing from the internet. Like most of my videos that were deemed inappropriate material on YouTube. So I had to go to BitChute.com. Like, for example, with the Memorial Lies, the 2-minute video, I had to move that to BitChute because it was taken down within 2 days. I highly encourage people to go visit it. Just go to bitchute.com and put in Luca Majno, M-A-J-N-O, in the search bar. Just a quick look on my YouTube page shows how many videos were deleted. The elite have been playing the people for ages. In my research, I actually found a painting or a hieroglyph of a reptile leader holding one hand stretched out with a crocodile leader, and they both have people underneath them, strings attached, waging war on the people with strings attached underneath them, and the people underneath them are doing the same thing. So this ideology goes back centuries. very interestingly, we go back to Rudolf Steiner, who was living in the 1800s, and another Austrian doctor, I don't remember his name, who's on YouTube also still, and he says that corporations have sought to dumb people down, to disconnect us from higher thinking, from the higher worlds, in order to have a more controllable, malleable society. I find it absolutely incredible that you know, so much information like what I have shared just now uh, is available to anyone and everyone who's interested, but nobody talks about it. Perhaps because they're afraid of their own life. And by the way, Terrence Yake, the black first responder at the OKC bombing, was found in a field, stabbed and probably shot also, but he was found in a field miles away from home. And I got to throw this in. His wife and him had put their findings and their research and their investigation in special boxes in the bank, special security boxes. And when the wife got to the bank, they were already taken by the FBI and the CIA. So I just want to conclude here because I have come back from a huge operation, and I'm already starting to sweat. And I really want to thank everybody responsible for being able to uh, allow me to do this video, and it will be on bitshoot.com, because if I put this on YouTube, the robots that check the words and check the algorithms and everything, it'll be gone within a day or two, if not less. And I apologize for the shaking of the laptop, but I'm sitting down as comfortably as I can doing this. So uh, I just want to say thank you also to Roger Landry and the Liberty Beacon for helping me and being such an incredible, viable, reliable source for my material. And you can find that at www.thelibertybeacon.com. And if you put my name in the search bar, you'll also find all of the Learn to Unlearn videos that I've done until now. So thank you so much for listening, and please join me on my BitChute video, on my BitChute page for more information. Thank you so much. Have a good day.